Hey, y'all, it's me, your host, Coach Pilar Arthur Sneed. Thanks so much for joining me here for another episode of the Last 10th podcast. You know, and I know that I am so excited every single week to chat with the folks that I have on the show. And of course, you know that this week is no different. I am super duper excited to welcome Jasmine Sanchez to the show. Jasmine is a runner, but even more than that, Jasmine is an entrepreneur. She is the founder of an awesome company creating athletic wear, functional athletic wear for us folks out here doing the long haul runs called Vessel Athletics. She's also the program manager for another endeavor called Founded Outdoors. So, Jasmine, that's just the short list of things that you do. I'm super excited to have you on the show. Welcome. Welcome.
Thank you, Pilar. I love your energy to kind of kick things off, and it's really cool to be here because I've listened to several of your episodes. So this is the one I won't be listening to.
You
But
have
I'm excited
you
to.
have to listen to your own show. You have to.
I don't know about that, but I'm excited to be here nevertheless.
Awesome. Awesome. I am excited to have you here, So where I usually like to start is I really love it when guests really just introduce themselves. I give the 50,000-foot overview, but anything that you would like to share, please tell me more about you.
Sure, yeah. So, my name is Jasmine. I live, or I grew up and currently live like in the South Bay Area of California. Pilar and I were just talking about the major weather differences, the temperature differences. So
Indeed.
I'm grateful where it's not freezing here.
Indeed.
But I'm also the founder of a startup called Vessel Athletics. So as Pilar mentioned, it's a functional activewear brand for runners, and we're launching with our first product called the Hydroshirt. And yeah, I'm also, the program manager of Founded Outdoors, another incredible opportunity that I just kind of took on recently.
Mm.
And then, a big identity of who I am is running. I'm a runner 100%, and running, since it's January still, at the end of last year, I was doing a lot of reflection, and my partner actually mentioned this. He said, running is like a big part of your life just beyond the actual sport. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't really realize that running has become part of like my friendships,
Yes.
my community, my career,
Yeah.
and so many things. So yeah, that's a little bit about, myself and what I'm up to these days.
Absolutely. I have like a little bit of a running joke, a running joke. It's a running joke and it is also a running joke with one of my running buddies. Um I would always say, and this is just, in reference to like my turtle self, there are runners with small r's, and then there are capital R runners. You are a capital R runner.
Huh. Interesting. And so what does the capital R runner mean?
Well, in the context of myself and my friend, he is now, as I would term him, he is now a capital R runner, because like we used to run together. He's gotten way faster than me. He's way faster than me. He's like he could run like a 7-minute mile or something, and I'm over here at my turtle pace, whatever. So capital R runner is like, you see like the guy who's outside.
Okay.
He's got his chest out, and he looks like he's a gazelle, and he's just, that's capital R runner, right?
Sure.
And
Okay.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just merely a runner. I'm just a runner. But because running has taken up so much of your, taken up so much of your life, and you have founded a company to help us runners. You are a capital R runner, and I mean that in the most positive and the most bestest ways ever.
Thank
Yeah.
you for that. Yeah, thank you. I see. I don't know. I wouldn't. So just a little backstory too. What I growing up, I was always really active. I loved sports. I was such a sporty person, and I grew up playing basketball. But I was probably the slowest, if not one of the slowest, runners on my basketball team all the time. So I don't know how much I resonate to being a fast runner, but
I know. No,
yeah.
that's why I'm saying in the context of between me
Sure.
and
Yeah.
me and my running buddy, when we would be out running together, we'd see like a gazelle run by and go, "Oh, that guy. That guy. Now
Got
that
it.
guy's a runner." We are runners, but we're just runners. But
Yeah.
in this context, I mean that in the most professional,
Yeah.
like just amazing capacity of runner, in that you are the embodiment of what it means to be a part of this sport. That's what I mean. So
Thank you.
capital R.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. 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 So tell me a little bit more about how you got involved in running, and maybe just, you mentioned that you played basketball, so a little bit about your life pre-running time.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, as I mentioned, grew up playing sports. Basketball was kind of like my first
Mm,
love, my first passion, and then played that all the way up until high school.
mm,
When I graduated, went to college. I went to San Jose State, and it's actually very much known to be a commuter school. So
mm,
not a lot of people live on campus, which that was me that first year going to university, and I really struggled to find community. I struggled to build relationships. And I was no longer playing basketball at the time. And so it's just a lot of changes were happening around that time. And so, I realized I was just kind of falling into this place that I didn't want to be going down. And realized I needed
mm,
something to kind of motivate me, to challenge me,
mm.
especially being that I was, always competitive and I love sports. I came across this ad for like this, I was going to say 5K, but it was actually a 8K in my area in San Jose called the 408K.
Oh
And
my.
I just signed up, and uh, it was, I was like, what did I just do? But ended up doing it, actually, training for it, and I loved it. I did it. I ran it by myself, but just kind of being in that environment, running past bands and
Yeah.
just the spectators and all
Yeah.
that. It was so awesome. And after that, it was just kind of like this cycle of like, oh, how much more can I run next time? How much more
Mm,
can I run? And it slowly just trickled down into this, finally finding a community, which is
mhm,
what initially started off as like my local run community,
mm,
and then eventually into you know this business that I'm working on, Vessel Athletics.
mm,
And just over the years, just have loved the sport, have
mm,
loved the industry, have loved the people more and more and more.
mm, mm, mm.
So yeah, that is how I initially got started running.
Yes. That's awesome. So it basically started in terms of like needing to be more connected to people in your community, really.
Absolutely. I mean, now even looking at it too, it's even beyond the local community. Now,
Mm,
I mean, I've connected with folks like you, Pilar, who are across the country,
that's right, exactly.
Um, but yeah, I mean, which I never expected that would happen, right? But
Sure.
I don't even know what I was expecting for at the time when I started running. But I think where I was at in my mindset is just like I want to do something to
Mm,
kind of like motivate me, to
mm,
challenge me.
mm,
And then found that community.
mm,
Maybe it happened a little unexpectedly, but found that
mm,
community over
mm,
time. And honestly, I am 100% a natural introvert. So getting out there, and especially in group environments,
mm.
it's still uncomfortable even to this day if I'm showing up to a group that I haven't met before. But
Yes.
it was also really, a nice challenge, a nice, again, going back to the challenge, a nice
Sure.
way to meet more people. So yeah.
Sure. Do you think that being a part of the running community first, I guess, like as you started and then kind of moving forward, do you think that that has moved you closer to being like a running extrovert? Or, has it given you like tools to be more social?
Totally. So okay, so yes, great question. That's interesting. I didn't think of that before. So in the midst of when I got, into running and I started doing these longer distances, my sweet spot's kind of like the half marathon.
Mm,
And as I was doing these longer distances, I'm like a heavy sweater, TMI, but
me
I sweat a
too.
lot. So you can imagine how the summers are here. But I sweat a lot and started as I was doing these longer distances, I started realizing, oh, I probably should be carrying water with me on my runs.
Mm,
And then, went down the cycle of, running with a plain plastic water bottle, actually purchasing like a handheld grip bottle,
mm,
the hydration backpack, purchasing
mhm,
all these hydration products, right?
mhm,
And then hating all of them for several different reasons, which we could also
mhm,
talk about.
mhm,
And that's when like this idea for the Hydroshirt came to be. And I studied business
mm,
at in university, and so it was cool because around the same time when I had this idea for this product, I was also taking a lot of these classes around
mm,
how to start a business.
mm,
And the number one thing, the first thing you always want to do when you have this idea for something is you actually want to go out and validate that you're
mm,
solving a need, that you're solving something, that
mm,
people are going to pay money for your service or
mm,
product.
mm.
And so I was like, okay, well, I need to go speak to other runners because
Yes.
maybe who knows, maybe I'm the only one
Yeah.
experiencing these issues with hydration. And that kind of forced me, literally forced me to go out and walk up to people at trails, at races, who were wearing hydration backpacks or who
Mm,
were holding bottles and ask them questions around like, hey, what do you like about this product? What do you not like? So in a way, going back to your question, in a way, I think having that idea for this business a little bit, it pushed me to,
yes.
to connect with the community more than maybe
Yes.
I would have.
Yes.
Um, and now it's just like I said, it's such a big part of my identity that it's come more natural. I think
Yes.
now I just love connections. I love to
Sure.
meet folks one on one, like what we're doing right now. So,
Sure.
but that
Sure.
was kind of how it started. Is I had this idea, and I knew like like you can't be a successful unless you go out and get feedback and you talk to people.
So you have a, a bachelor's in business, an MBA,
I had
both?
bachelor's, yeah, no, not an MBA. After I got my bachelor's, I think I was very intentional about what I wanted to study in
Mm,
college, and at a very early age, knew I wanted to start a business. I grew up around a lot of entrepreneurs, including my parents, and so after I graduated from college, got my bachelor's, I was like, I'm not going back to school.
You
So I
you
don't know
say
about
that
my MBA.
today. You say that
I
today.
know, right? I
But
know,
that
yeah.
that is likely that is I'm going to say that that is likely to change over time.
It
As
could,
you
yeah.
become as you become, more successful in
Serious and
your business, I'm 100% certain that it will change. I mean, I could be wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong. But
yeah.
so I guess what I want to know is I want to know more about this. Two things. I want to know more about your parents being entrepreneurs and how that
Mhm,
has influenced you. And then I want to know, okay, you got this idea.
mhm.
Like where in did it strike you like a lightning bolt? And then you were just like, oh my goodness. And then what was the process from, besides talking to folks, like what was the process from there? Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So yeah, I mean, we could start with my parents, and if I forget the second question,
That's
you're
okay.
gonna have to
That's
remind me.
okay. That's
So yeah,
okay.
I mean, I mentioned, my parents, they are entrepreneurs themselves. Well, my mom, when I was born, she used to own these two retail stores. So I remember at an early age as a kid, I was there taking naps. She owned one store in a mall, and My grandma would come and pick me up and then take me to the arcade in this little mall.
Yeah.
It's now closed. And
Yeah.
just kind of being in that environment. And then my dad, he owned a restaurant for over 20 years, and
Wow.
he still does like dabbles in different forms of businesses. And so same with my aunt and uncle. The first,
Wow.
job I ever had was working for them for their coffee catering business. So
Wow.
just I think seeing that they're small business owners, but seeing how you can, kind of have a job and do something that you love,
Mhm.
um, is a possibility.
Mm.
And then, so yeah, just growing up around that was just I knew no other option. You
Okay.
know, it was kind of how it was. It's like I want to do that too, but I
Yeah.
want to actually create something or do something a little bit differently. But I want to start my own thing and be able to
Wow.
call it mine. Is
Wow.
how it started. Yeah.
I am
Um,
always in awe of folks who tell me on the show that they knew when they were knee high to a grasshopper ish that they had an idea of what they wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do until now. So you are very, very lucky to have had a strong role models in your life who were able to model for you a lifestyle that you felt like you would like to emulate. And then, B, to have said, this is what I want to do. And then to be um, living into that dream. That's awesome.
Totally. Yeah. I agree. I was very fortunate in that sense to kind of, and who knows, like you said, my life might change and maybe one day I'll be like, I want to become a doctor. That's also a
And that
possibility.
is totally acceptable. Totally
Exactly. Right.
acceptable.
But right now I'm just so there's so much going on, and I'm so excited to kind of be able to create my own path in the world of
Mm,
entrepreneurship. So
mm,
so yeah. And then going back to your second question, which
mm,
is, okay, I had the idea.
mm,
How did it start? So it didn't just happen all at once. I
mm,
think it started off with experiencing those pain points,
mm, mm,
over the course of, I don't know, several months,
mm,
and lots of money wasted
mm,
on products that I no longer use.
mm,
And then uh and I just one day I just thought, so actually this is during a race that I was doing like a 5K. And first of all, like I think it was one of the first runs too that I had done too, and I did it with my cousin actually.
mm.
And we were carrying this like hydration backpack,
Yes.
and like I was carrying it, and midway through this run I was like, oh, my back is hurting me, and I was sweating, and I made my cousin carry it the rest of the way. And I just thought, well, what if we could just put one of these hydration packs inside of athletic wear shirts? And so just to give a little bit more context, the
Yeah,
Hydroshirt
absolutely.
itself it's essentially incorporating a hydration pack, a
Mm,
removable hydration pack inside of athletic wear shirts. And the whole idea is, let's create a hydration system that can make it easier, more comfortable to carry water on your runs without the excess weight,
mhm,
the annoying movement that happens,
mhm,
and without having to hold something in your hand. And
mhm,
so, I felt like from experiencing those pain points, I just thought that's how the idea initially came to be.
mhm,
So I wouldn't say it just came all at once.
mm.
Um,
It
yeah,
kind of
and
developed over time.
totally,
Or
totally,
like
yeah.
or like the idea for this podcast happened essentially on a run as well, right? Like I
Hmm.
didn't really listen to podcasts really, but I knew that they existed, and I also was very used to seeing media, representations of runners. But generally speaking, all of the things that I would see in the media were, about those capital R runners,
Hmm.
white
Hmm.
dudes, skinny white dudes, fast, 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 and always like the hype about them. Sometimes, occasionally, an American, you know, fast American white woman, but I generally didn't see stories about people who look like me.
Mhm.
regular everyday runners who are doing pretty awesome, amazing things, starting companies like yourself. And I just like, just run out a run with my buddy. You know, wouldn't it be really great if there was a podcast where you could talk to people who like are just kind of like us, who are doing some pretty amazing things in their life. They're not like that guy.
Yeah.
Like, wouldn't that be really great? And then it was just like, like for me, it was like this thing where like I had the idea and it just kept it was like a worm in my brain. It just,
Yeah.
it's just, I was like, I'm gonna need to do this. Was it like that for you?
Yes. Yeah, and so I think it's pretty common. I assume it's pretty common for a lot of folks to, go through life and come up with so many different ideas. Like, oh, there should be a solution to this, or
Yeah.
a solution to that. And I still do that.
Yes.
But I think what it really came down to was that this was something that I was experiencing this pain point,
Mm,
and I identified as a runner,
mm,
and my love for running was just getting bigger and bigger.
mhm.
And I realized this is so I want to do this because I like this space. I don't think I really thought like, oh, the running industry or anything like that, but
Mm,
I think it was just there was the passion behind it. There was that excitement, like you said, with this podcast that you started. You just couldn't get it out of your mind.
mhm, mhm.
And that's how it was for me. Yeah, it just kept trickling and popping back in my mind.
It was like, like you said, we have ideas about things all the time. The way that I kind of test, I guess, an idea is that if I can remember that I've actually had it, that's the first thing.
Yes.
The next day I go, "Oh yeah, I had that idea yesterday." And then if I just keep, I keep thinking about it, I keep trying to solve solve the problem in my mind, which means that it needs to get out of my mind and it needs to come out into the world, because
Mhm.
I have to remove it from this place in my head, kind of like trying to
Mhm.
solve a Rubik's cube. So I
Mhm.
imagine that like this athletics, trying to find a way to hydrate runners, it was like a Rubik's cube. You're like, I've got to solve this problem that people are having. I'm having it,
Totally.
so other people must be having it.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And going back, like, so to make a point too around the how or the process of starting like a business, if you're thinking about it, I mean, everyone has their own approach, but how I look at it is I want to start something that I'm incredibly excited to build because I'm passionate about it.
Mm.
Because that passion is what's going to carry you through
Oh,
those
absolutely.
those very low lows of starting a business, you
Absolutely.
know? So it's like, it was never about, oh, it was never for any, monetary reasons or selfish reasons. It was because like, whoa, this is so cool. I'm actually excited about this. Um, and like I said, I grew up always knowing that I wanted to start a business, but there was nothing that really came to mind and fully got me excited like this before.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. So where are you in the process right now in terms of the startup?
Yeah, so I've been, working on this for some time now, and um, one of the challenges after I came up with the idea,
Mm,
I mentioned you go out, you speak to people, you get feedback, learn about what other people are experiencing with the
mm,
current solutions. Then the next step was prototyping. So,
mhm,
okay, how do I get this idea from my head and from this
mhm,
crappy drawing that I,
mhm.
drew up into a physical, form. And I was studying business.
Mm,
I'm not a craftsy person whatsoever. I, have no traditional design experience. And
mm,
so I just went actually connected to a couple of students at my university
mm,
or from my university's design program.
mm,
And there was one in particular who helped me for some time. And, he would help with prototyping. We would come up with these like very scrappy prototypes. And the first prototype I ever or we ever came up with was it was just like this shirt and we sewed on this pocket And inside that pocket is where the hydration pack sat. So I wore that first prototype and I ran in it. And it was kind of a trial and error.
Mm,
You would try on, test out prototypes, you would
mm,
notice things, and
mm,
then it just kept developing.
mm,
It was a slower process probably than, like if I were to start again, right?
mm.
And do it. So that was kind of a slower process because it's just like I didn't even know where to start, and
Sure,
that's such a
sure.
huge challenge. It's like, oh, what do I do next? Um, and then eventually, realize, okay, well, I need to now work with a designer to actually, in the world of apparel, you need, if you want to produce something, you need to get a tech pack.
Okay.
It's made from like a designer. So I worked with several designers over the course of a couple years, and now we're at the point where we are looking for a factory, which has been such a pain
Wow.
in the ass, honestly. We have to we're looking to, produce this product overseas because
Mm,
it's a pretty technical product. And so that's been kind of just a major challenge, a major headache.
mm,
We've gone down the road of like talking to factories, sampling, getting samples from several
mhm,
factories,
mhm,
and it not working out for several different reasons. And so
mhm,
I'm working with actually this like a production manager and my current designer
mhm,
to kind of navigate that process of, okay,
mhm,
like let's find, how are we going to find a factory
mhm,
who can produce this product at like a
mhm,
reasonable cost, who could
mhm,
produce the product
mhm,
at a low enough minimum, and who
mhm,
could do something at a quality standard. So I'm kind of in that realm right now where it's like
mm,
the product is, I
mm,
would say, like super close to being ready,
mhm,
but it's not like, okay, who's gonna make the product?
mhm, mhm. So let's talk about, you have this idea, but then then you start prototyping it for anyone who might be listening, right? Like to me, I hear all this and I go, dollar signs. How are you getting from here to there, as like, you're a new business person, you've got an idea, but how do you get this project? And I'm not really just thinking about like just your project. I'm thinking like you have a project such as this that requires
Yeah,
prototyping, product production, factory finding. How do you do that from a dollars and cents perspective?
it is so hard. I'm still wondering that myself. I'm trying to answer that myself. And so many people, so many others are too, especially when you're creating like a physical product versus like an app,
Mhm,
it could be very expensive
mm,
just to even get something off the ground, right?
mm, mm,
And so being scrappy was the
mm,
first thing,
mm, mm,
uh, it, understanding, like, because I don't have all the money in the world, I have
mm,
to be a little bit smarter with what I'm going to spend that money
mm,
towards.
mm,
And sometimes that's costed the maybe the speed of when we could launch, which
mm,
is
mm,
also a
mhm,
challenge. But yeah, being scrappy, luckily when I was still in college, I kind of used that to my advantage,
mm.
and um, you know, competed in good competitions, won a little
Awesome.
bit of money here and there, some
Mhm,
grants. Um, and then, after college, got a full-time job.
mm,
And, even to this day, like I have another job. So that's been other ways to support me.
mm, mm,
Um,
mm,
and everyone's journey is going to look different, but
mm,
just being that I was still fresh out of college, yeah, exactly. Where are you going to get the money from?
mm.
Everyone's situation is going to be different, but
Sure.
in many cases, if you do want to build a physical product,
Mm,
it's not as easy as going out to an investor and just say, "Hey, I have this really cool idea. Write me a check." You have to be really resourceful and scrappy, and
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. What would you say aside from, dollars and cents? Because what I'm hearing is that dollars and cents is like you can make it happen, right? Like however you need to make it happen, you have this dream, you're gonna make it happen. Besides that, in starting your own company, what would you say is the number one thing that you need to have in order to get from point A to point B? B, not A and B not being this close together, A and B being here is A, and sometimes B is like, is getting to B is all the way like this, it's a roundabout way.
Oh gosh, that's the number one thing. Wow, that's
Mm,
such a hard question.
mm. You can say
And
one or two things.
yeah, I mean, that's tough. I mean, and I feel like, I'm still learning, right? But from what I from what I've learned, from what I've experienced, from what I've heard from others, I would say from what I believe is like community, like so
Mm,
networking,
mm,
making connections, right?
mm,
Because for a business like this, again, relationships really matter.
mm,
Getting feedback from folks really matters,
mm,
and showing people who you are, like that there's
mm,
a person behind this product or this
mm,
service,
mm,
behind this brand. So I
mm,
think just building relationships is so important, and really anything you do,
mm.
and not just building them but actually keeping them, you know
Absolutely.
that is so important.
Yes.
That's a whole another discussion we could go down, but I
Yeah.
would say that's one of them. And the other one, another one is maybe also just, let's see, I think going back to having that passion,
Mm,
is so important, because that passion is going to carry you through
mhm,
those lows.
mhm,
Uh, being resourceful, being scrappy. And another one is like not getting down, not falling into that trap of like analysis paralysis, where,
mm,
you know, you you spend so much time on one thing, with like a startup. And this is a learning lesson for me,
mm,
it's
mhm.
just try and do things quicker, because the more time you're spending on something, the more time you're spending money. So it's like, if you have this idea, don't just try and get the idea out there to people. See if this is a need. How can you do like the cheapest form of prototyping?
Mm,
I mean, I've spent so much money on things that I didn't need to spend,
mm,
or spent so
mm.
much time on things that I didn't need to spend, like, researching the industry. Like
Sure.
sometimes you just know, and you should just go for it instead
Yes.
of thinking about things. And the more
Sure.
you think, like, it sometimes holds you back, or
Sure.
you know what I mean? So that's another one too, is just be quick and
Just go.
yeah, just go.
Just go.
Exactly.
Because
Yeah.
the traditional way, at least the way that things, um, you know, have worked through my time, I have run and operated many businesses
Yeah.
throughout my life, but the traditional way is sit down, write a business plan, have a business goal and objective, and you write
Uh-huh.
this plan, and then you write everything to your plan, and then you do everything to this plan, and that way of doing things can be not very nimble. you
Mhm.
you don't get to move and do what you said, which is to be scrappy, right? Like, because sometimes the market is changing, and it
Totally.
can be this way one day and not that way the next, and being nimble allows you to address issues quickly, and then kind of just move forward from that, and find a new way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, you said that perfectly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I was thinking, while you were talking about, um you know getting the business started, and moving the business forward, and that it's taken like a certain amount of time, and then I was thinking about what you said in terms of how running has helped you to kind of like overcome being an introvert. I mean, it sounds to me like your natural way of operating is that you're like, "Oh, I'm quiet and I'm shy, but I don't really want to." But what being a runner has done for you has
Sure.
it's really moved you completely way out of your comfort zone. Yeah, like way,
Yeah.
way out of your comfort zone. Talk to me about like how does running, being on the pavement, that uncomfortableness that we feel on the pavement, how does that translate into your life practices?
Yeah. So it's such a good question, and it's in so many ways. I mean, just getting used to being uncomfortable. I
Mm,
say that a lot, is
mm,
like I try and be mindful of that thought. It's like when I have a fear of like speaking in front of a group,
Mm.
and that voice comes up in my head, you know, and I constantly go back to that thought. No, get used to being uncomfortable, and like running is a form of that, and just like doing these new challenges through running, that kind of it equips you, or that's a form of like training mentally,
That's right.
not
Yes,
just physically.
absolutely. Agreed.
And so that's definitely one of them. So it's like running has helped me, like I said earlier, in business, um, you know, mentally. It's helped me, I think, too, with like my relationships.
Mm.
I, I dragged my partner into becoming a runner.
Yes.
We did our first marathon last month, and we did it together, which was like such a awesome experience. Uh thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah, we I dragged one of my best friends from like high school,
Mm.
or even beyond that, to finally sign up for her first half marathon in April, so we'll be doing that
Wow.
together. So
Wow.
it's just, oh, it's such a, yeah. Yeah, I did, I answer your question? What was your
You
question again?
totally answered the question. Totally. Totally. You totally answered the question. Essentially, what
Yeah.
like the theme of this show, and
Yeah.
really all the time when I say this show, I mean the podcast in general, is just generally
Yeah.
like just like running is like this. It's like this thing that it's so simple, one foot in front of the other. You just put on your clothes, you go, you run, blah 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 blah. But really, if you allow it to be, it can be like this life changing experience. It can just be this thing that you just like, it just transforms every aspect of who you are, what you do, and how you move about in the world.
Totally.
Man,
Absolutely.
man,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, running it's so much more like, to the everyday person who's is maybe not a runner right now.
Mm.
They, sometimes they look at, I'm using from my own personal experience, like some of my family members are like, "Why do you run? Do you know people die doing marathons?" I'm like, "Yeah, people die with drinking water." But for me, it's so much more than just like the pounding the pavement. It's so much more than that.
Yeah.
It's sometimes hard to kind of describe, but
Yes.
yeah, it's a part of my life, and I think it really, it's a part of like, it's so many people's lives, and it helps so many people
Mm,
for so many different reasons.
absolutely. Absolutely. So you were also a part of Founded Outdoors. Talk to me a little bit about that hat that you wear.
Yeah, such a cool new little opportunity that I took on recently. And so again, this is in relation to this Founded Outdoors. How I got to where I am with Founded Outdoors is actually connected to Vessel Athletics and my start to running. It's all interconnected.
Ah, awesome.
So for when I started Vessel Athletics, I started on this in like the Bay Area in San Jose, and here there's a tons of entrepreneurship going on. There's so many resources for entrepreneurs here, but it's very much directed towards like your tech entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And so me, being that I was starting this apparel brand, creating this physical product, and I was also in a different industry, the running industry slash maybe outdoor industry
Mhm,
to some capacity. I just I couldn't find a community here.
mhm,
And I've had incredible mentors, but a lot of them have started tech companies.
mhm,
And it's just a different world when you're in when you're in the running or outdoor industry, regardless of whether you're doing apparel or not.
mhm,
And for years, I was just seeking a community, looking for some kind of resources,
mhm.
or even just trying to meet other entrepreneurs who are in
Sure.
this industry. And so I went in August of 2021. My partner and I, we went to Denver for about a month, and I was like, I was very intentional about wanting to make connections there. Denver is definitely a little hub for entrepreneurs who are in the
Mhm,
outdoor industry.
mhm,
And so I came across this Facebook group called Outdoor Entrepreneurs,
mhm,
connected with the woman who started it, which is Katie.
mhm.
And, Katie and I got to talking, and I was just telling her my frustrations. I was like, when I heard about this Facebook group, I was so excited. And I was like, this has been something that the industry has needed for so long. we need support. It's not just, there's not just tech entrepreneurs out there.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
anyway, she told me, she's like, you know what? I'm in the midst of actually launching this program with REI. I'm looking for a program manager. And so, it's for these like early stage founders who have this idea where I was, when I started this in college.
Yeah.
And I was just, and it was also like Founded Outdoors. It's this program, it's essentially like a startup program to help primarily underrepresented and historically marginalized entrepreneurs
Mm.
get from idea to
Yeah.
launching their business. And
Yeah.
it was just, everything resonated for me. And when I tell people about this who have known me for a while, they're like, this job seems like it was just created for you. And
It's
I was
just
like,
like, oh.
yeah, totally. And yeah, it's so awesome. It's really so amazing
Yeah.
to be part of kind of this industry change,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the future entrepreneurs. Yes,
Yeah. And entrepreneurs in marginalized groups, which is amazing.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I
Absolutely.
mean, shout out to REI for, you know, committing to, I believe they're committing, I don't want to say the wrong number on a podcast,
That's
but they're
okay.
committing
They're committing to a
many
lot of
millions,
dollars.
many millions, yes, to supporting, BIPOC founders,
Mm,
which is just, it's very much needed, something that the industry has needed for a
mm.
long time. So yeah.
Absolutely. So if someone who's listening, if they wanted to get involved in Founded Outdoors, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so we just kicked off the program 2 weeks ago. So it's like we're going for this. This is the first program we've ever launched. So cohort number 1. And hopefully it'll be an annual thing. We're going to see if maybe it'll be going on twice a year, but we
Mhm,
are, I
mhm,
think, still trying to figure that out.
mhm,
But go to the website,
mhm.
and I believe there's like a newsletter that you could sign up to, or you could put your email somewhere on the website, or we'll direct you somewhere. Go to
So,
the website and just so you can kind of stay up to date
mm,
of when that next application opens up, because it is an incredible opportunity.
mm,
You can get connected to some great mentors, a little bit of grant funding,
mm.
um, and yeah, and or you could follow the Instagram page too to kind of
Absolutely.
stay up to date around when that next application opens up. But yeah, 100% would recommend it.
Absolutely. So it's foundedoutdoors.com or foundedoutdoors.org.
.com. Good
.com.
question. Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Hmm.
Awesome. Awesome. So what are some other things that are connected in your running life? I know there's one other thing that I know of, but I'd love for you to share it. I'm thinking of
Ah,
running diversity council.
either yeah, RIDC, the running it is that yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, so there's also the Running Industry Diversity Coalition, another just incredible organization that is doing some very much needed work in our industry.
Mm,
And how I got involved with the RIDC was also kind of a little funny, interesting story. Was this was around, I believe, when they launched, when Chris and Allison came together and said, hey, we need to start this coalition.
mm,
It was after the murder of Ahmaud Arbery,
mm,
and the running industry and community really just they opened their eyes, and they started having these conversations.
mm,
They started sharing these resources, having these, again, this dialogue that was never had before on this scale, you
mhm,
know and I saw these incredible things happening online on Instagram. But with Instagram, these conversations, these resources, they get lost after a couple of days.
that's right.
And I thought, there needs to be kind of like this hub, this community hub, where runners who care about the same thing,
Mhm,
who care about diversity, equity, inclusion,
mhm,
diversifying the industry,
mhm.
there needs to be this hub for us to come together and continue these conversations even before. And I had this idea in my head, and a couple weeks later, the announcement of the RIDC came out, and I was like, this is exactly I was like, why would I go build this community when I'm kind of this newcomer still in the space? Why don't I reach out to Allison and Chris? And I spoke to Chris first, and they were probably like, who the heck is this girl? But I was like, I have this idea, we need to build this community. I kind of pitched them this vision that I had, and they took a chance on me, and like I helped them launch their community platform on,
Wow.
or yeah, their community on a platform called Circle, which
Wow.
was another really awesome thing to do, and getting to know Allison and Chris and so many folks from the RIDC, Robin, John, um, so many of them has been just really awesome. Another incredible opportunity to get more connected to folks that are doing great work. So yeah, it was kind of just like me having this idea, me realizing I can't do it all on my own, and
Yes.
just reaching out to them randomly,
Wow.
and they believed in me to help them out a little bit, and
Wow.
yeah, I mean that coalition is just growing, and I'm so excited to have a little bit of a role, or yeah, a little bit of a role in this space.
Wow. Jasmine, you are like, you're pretty freaking amazing. I mean, you like, if I could just get like 5 minutes in your brain, you've got idea
Oh.
after idea after idea. And for you to tell me that you're an introvert, I'm just like, wait, what? Like, you have an idea and then you go, I'm going to talk to that person and that person is going to help me make this happen. That is not introversion.
But see, it goes back to that thought of, like, when I was writing that message to Chris, I was like, maybe I shouldn't send it. Delete, delete, delete. But no, it went back to that core thought that I have, get used to being uncomfortable.
I
And so
understand.
that is just, I that's that is my constant reminder,
Yes.
to do that, to do those kinds of things. When I
Yeah.
have an idea, hey, speak up. And that
Yeah.
should be the case for everyone,
Absolutely.
because we all have so much incredible thoughts in our head that should be seen and brought into the world.
Hmm. I love that. I absolutely love it. I love just like, I'm just like the last like just like that last thing that I'm just like, you are amazing. 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 Wow. I love all the work that you are doing in the world. I am certainly fortunate to have been able to be connected with you through the RIDC, and just
Yeah.
it's a beautiful thing. So you kind of already shared a little bit of some advice, but I always ask this question: if you had advice, if there's advice that you have been given personally, or if there is advice that you would like to give, what would it be?
Hmm. Uh, so I think this is something I've been thinking a lot about recently, because I want to be more intentional about it.
Mm.
And I wouldn't say one individual gave me this piece of advice, but many folks in my life, mentors, friends, family, my partner, um, they've shared this with me. They've told me to be a little bit more mindful about this. Is just like, be okay with uh, letting things go. You
Mm.
know, Pilar, you mentioned this earlier,
Yeah, we
right?
talked about this earlier.
And I think it's really important to, like, I'm talking about all these things that I'm working on right now, right? And we have, as humans, like, we want to get so much done, and like, especially if you're working on a business, right? Or you have like a career that might be a little bit demanding. It's always like, it feels like we're just always on the go, go, go,
Mm.
right? And so I think it's so important for me to be mindful and to always circle back and just like step out of this day-to-day life of
Mhm.
always trying to make efficient use out of your day,
That's
and
right.
just live in the now. Like, that's something that I'm trying to be better at,
Mm.
and it's a better way for me to manage my stress.
Mm.
um, and so I would recommend that, just try and be a little bit more mindful with the now, and this
Mhm.
journey that you are in now, and not don't think so much about the past, about what happened. in the past because you can't change that. Don't think about what's going to happen in the future because you know what? It hasn't happened yet.
That's
Pay,
exactly
pay
right.
attention to what's in front of you right now. That is a message to myself
Yes.
and definitely a message to, anyone else who struggles with stress and getting overwhelmed or beating themselves up for
Mm.
something that they didn't do good at or
Mhm.
they claim they didn't do good at,
That's
that
right.
in the past. Take some time to reflect on what's happening now in this moment.
Yes. I love that. That is all exceptional, exceptional advice that we can all benefit from. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Jasmine, it has been an amazing conversation with you. Thank you so much for sharing about all of the things that you are involved in. I already know that one day I'm going to say, I knew Jasmine when she was just starting this fabulous company. I knew her when because it's going to be amazing. It's going to be fabulous. I have no doubt. So thank you so much for joining me.
No, thank you. And I want to say, Pilar, thank you for cultivating community.
Mm,
You are a community builder, and you make people feel welcomed, and you put out positive energy, and so that's why so many incredible folks are coming in front of you, because you're also doing such incredible work too, which I'm gonna have you on my IG live in a couple of weeks.
I'm
So
so
it's so
excited.
that day is gonna be just me putting the spotlight on you.
That's
So
right.
yeah. It's gonna turn the tables.
It's going to
Yeah.
be
So
me in the hot seat.
yep. Yeah. I gotta get ready for that one. But yeah, no, thank you for having me. Thank you for, everything you do. And even though we are many, many miles away, I feel like I know you already,
I
like
feel
very,
the
very well. So it's
same. I
yeah.
feel the same. I feel the same. Thank
Yeah.
you so very much. So
Thank you.
much.